Yo, what's up? It's Akeem back again with another video, and today we'll be doing a part 2 to my hip hop vinyl collection. I've been meaning to do this for a while, to be honest, but I've been procrastinating. So yeah, here we have it. If you haven't seen the first part to my vinyl hip hop collection, check that out on my channel. But yeah, I don't want to make this a super long intro because I've got quite a lot of vinyls to get through. But the vinyls that I'll be showing you today are essentially a lot of them are my favorite albums within hip hop. To be honest, there's a lot of vinyls that are essentially my hip hop essential albums that are personal to me, my favorites, so to speak. So yeah, let's get started with the first vinyl then. So the first vinyl I'll be showing you today is, to me, one of the best albums to come from the 90s. To me, this album is a classic. I remember my mom playing a few of these songs back in the 90s when I was just a little kid, but obviously getting older, listening to the music and knowing who they are. These are like are they underrated? As a group, I think in terms of the best hip hop groups, you can't forget these group of people, and that is the Fugees with the album The Score. This album is dope to me. Like I said, I remember my mom playing like the certain tracks from this album back in like the mid 90s, so to speak, mid to late 90s. But yeah, man, this album to me is one of the best albums to come from the 90s. And you obviously got Lauryn Hill and Wyclef. I actually don't know the name of this guy. It's quite bad actually. But yeah, everybody knows Lauryn Hill. Dope rapper, dope singer. But yeah, this album to me, the instrumentals, the beats on this album to me are just like so dope. So you got like How Many Mics, which I love the beat to that. You got Ready or Not, which is obviously one of the biggest hits from the album, and obviously Killing Me Softly as well. Anyway, but yeah, this album, man, it's just sick. It's just sick. I love this album. This is one of my favorite albums from the 90s, to be honest. If you haven't listened to this album, I'd highly recommend it, to be honest. Dope ass album from the 90s. This is a Vinyl Me Please exclusive as well, so I will show you that. Oh yeah, I forgot it's a gatefold as well, and it comes with this mini, what do you call these? Like a 33 RPM, these discs. And this is like is it yellow vinyl? Yeah, that's it. Is it focusing? There we go. And as I said, it is a gatefold, but you just got pictures of like the Fugees, the tracks, and the credits and whatnot. But obviously, as I said, this is a Vinyl Me Please exclusive, and it's very hard to get this actually. I was very lucky to find this. So just look at that, it's gold and black. What do you call this? Like a separation, but so dope. So this next vinyl this next artist in my collection is essentially one of the best artists to ever do it. It's quite a shame considering like the heights of where he reached in his career to where he is now. It's quite a shame, to be honest, because he's literally one of the best to ever do it as a rapper, as a producer. You can probably guess who this is gonna be, but for this album, for the time that it came out, it is a classic album. I'm not too sure if I think it's his best album, but that is Kanye West, The College Dropout. So this album came out back in what, 03, 04, and I'll be honest, how old would I have been? Like 12, 11 maybe? No, not even 12, I don't know, 10, 11, around that age, to be honest. And there's a lot of tracks on here that I remember listening to, like All Falls Down, Kanye, New Workout Plan, Through the Wire. Those are obviously one of those are a few of the singles from the album. Slow Jams as well, that was a tune with Twista and Jamie Foxx. And to me, this is definitely in amongst Kanye's catalogue, this is probably in his top. It's in his top 5. I don't know about top 3, possibly in his top 3, but it's all subjective, to be honest, because I do like this album a lot. And yeah, as a producer, as a rapper, Kanye is literally one of the best. I like the intro to the album, We Don't Care, dope track, one of my favourite tracks. All Falls Down, one of my favourite tracks. Jesus Walks, and obviously, if you can't forget Last Call as well, where Kanye just talks about his come up and, you know, how he made it into the game. And a lot of artists since this track have, even like for example, like J. Cole, Logic even doing it on his album, just, you know, doing a similar, like a reference to the last Call track. But yeah, man, this album had a big impact in the game, to be honest. The College Dropout, man, classic. I love the album cover as well. So with this next album now, this is around the time where I started to be more noticeable on like hip hop songs, hip hop albums, where I really started to get more invested into, more knowledgeable when it comes to like hip hop music. Like again with Kanye's album, like with the College Dropout, that was where really I started getting into more with hip hop. So coming to this next vinyl that I'll be showing is basically Kanye's big brother, the person that really got Kanye into the game. And this album to me is definitely one of his top 3 best albums in my opinion, and that is Jay-Z, the Black Album. This album is dope. Not sure if it's a classic, possibly, but one of my favorite albums on, like, definitely, man. Like, quite a concise album, to be honest. You got Encore, Change Clothes with Pharrell, Dirt on Your Shoulder. I remember listening to that Timbaland beat, yeah, back when I was younger, and the video was just sick. Back when videos were more of a thing, to be honest, like on like MTV. 99 Problems as well. Oh man, I think this is it's a standard black vinyl, but it comes as a gatefold. Just a basic gatefold, just, you know, pictures and tracks of, you know, Jay-Z. Funny thing about this album was that I remember when he dropped it, he announced his retirement, but we all know Jay-Z far from retired after this album. He dropped about at least 5-6 albums after this, but definitely one of Jay-Z's best albums. Next we have another Chicago-based rapper. To me, I feel like they are very underrated when it comes to just what they provide to the game, their lyricism, just their introspectiveness. And this album to me is definitely one of their best albums, to be honest, if not their best album, and that is Common with the album B. This album is, boy, it just hits your soul, man. Like, production wise, I think Kanye executive produced this album as well, which, I mean, say no more, really. Like, when did this come out? Back in 2005. So it's funny how the last 3 like vinyls that I showed were kind of around the same time period. But yeah, this album was just it's soulful. The beats on it, the like Common's rapping. I think the breakout track from this album is Go, which features Kanye West, or he's got Kanye's kind of vocals on it. You got Faithful, Testify, Love Is. I love that song. The Food, Real People. I love that. Man, you got It's Your World Part 1 and 2, and you got his dad doing like a monologue on it as well, which is just such a soulful album, soulful track, man. But yeah, if you haven't listened to this album, highly recommend it, man. Common is so underrated, man. Next we have one of the best artists to do it in the game, dead or alive, the best rapper in the game right now. This album to me is, I think it's his best album. It's not my favorite album, but I think for the time period where this came, the topics that he rapped about and the impact that this had on the game, and the impact that it still has in the game right now, especially with police brutality, you know, what's going on in America in terms of politics. This album, when it first came out, people, I know for me, for one, I didn't understand it. Like, I mean, I understood it, but it took me quite a long time to really get the album or really kind of enjoy the album. When it first came out, I didn't really like it. It took me a few years to really like enjoy the album, to be honest. It was one of them ones where after the first like few listens, I was like, I felt quite disappointed, especially going off his first album. But that's enough backstory. But anyway, the album is Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly. This is a dope album. I love the album cover as well. When it came out, I think a lot of people had a lot of high expectations. Not that this album provided any low expectations, but it was different to Good Kid, Mad City. And I think a lot of people, I know for me, I expected something similar to that. And if you know with Kendrick's albums, especially until now, each one of Kendrick's albums are different to the last. And I love the direction and way he took this album, especially like I said with Police Brutality, especially back in like, I think this was 2015, this album came out. And obviously with the killing of Trayvon Martin and all the other police brutality killings that's happened, this album was highly important for black people, especially, and just not even just black people, just hip hop. This album, production wise, beat wise, lyrics, this is Kendrick's best work. Favorite tracks in here: King Kunta, For Free, Institutionalized, These Walls, You, Alright, I love that track. Complexion with like Rhapsody killed that, like her verse on that track. And Mortal Man as well. That track, when I first heard it, that shit gave me chills, like hearing like Kendrick talk to Tupac like as if he was having like a real conversation. I don't know how Kendrick did that, but this album is highly impactful, and I think this will probably go down as one of the best albums ever in hip hop. So with his next album now, this artist really surprised me because I've always been a fan of them, but I found that at times they can be quite dark, especially with their lyrics, and I didn't necessarily want to be listening to somebody like that. But this album to me is, personally, I think this is their best album, production wise, rapping wise, lyrics, all that. And that is Tyler, the Creator, Flower Boy. This album, when it came out, like I said, I've always been a fan of Tyler, but I just found him quite dark and, you know, very abrupt, and just, you know, people know how Tyler is. But with this album though, he just took on like a 180, and it's like everything that he rapped about before, you wouldn't think that this came from this guy, to be honest. I love the album cover, so colourful as well. Almost hit myself with the vinyl there, but yeah, this is one of my favourite albums from 2017. I think this dropped. Doesn't have the track list on there, so I can't even tell you my favourite tracks. I'm trying to think now. I love Glitter, Garden Shed. What else? I can't even think, but there's not many. I can't skip this album. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to this album, like so many times. I love this album. Next, we have a rapper that is literally one of the best rappers to ever do it. Top 5, Dead or Alive. This album to this day is so impactful in terms of hip hop. I don't know where people will rank this album in their best hip hop albums of all time, but this has to be a top 10. All I can say is this album is a classic, and that is Notorious B.I.G, Ready to Die. This album, certified classic, written all over it. Production wise, this lyrics, everything, man. Favorite tracks: Give Me the Loot, Machine Gun Funk, woo. Warning, Everyday Struggle, I love that, man. Big Papa, Respect, Ready to Die, Juicy, obviously that's like the biggest hit from this album. And yeah, and Who Shot You as well. How can I forget to call out that track? Well, obviously, if you know about, you know, the East versus West beef, Tupac versus Biggie, Who Shot You was just like, yeah, quite a controversial track, to be honest. But yeah, this is a Vinyl Me Please exclusive as well, so I will show you that. This comes on this nice looking splatter vinyl. That is definitely one of my best looking vinyls. I think I said that quite a lot. We have another album which is, to me, one of their best albums in their catalogue. I kind of showed you the same artist in one of my previous vinyls, and that is Common with his album Resurrection. I don't see many people really talking about this album, or when I've seen other people's vinyl collections, I don't really see this, but like I said, this is one of Common's best albums. It's his sophomore album, came out back in 95, was it? No, 94. Executive produced by No ID as well, so Say No More, legend producer in the game. Favorite tracks: I Used to Love Her, Book of Life, Nothing to Do, Communism, Orange Pineapple Juice, like Maintaining, like Pops. Man, there's so many, man. Like, not many skippables for me personally. I love this album, man. Very soulful. I love the production on this album, especially when you got No ID as the producer. And yeah, classic album for me from the 90s. One of my favorite Common albums, man. If you haven't heard it, definitely recommend it. Now, we have here one of the best hip hop albums ever, like top 10, guaranteed. There's not many albums that are touching this, I'm telling you. I promise you, this is one of the best albums. Like, these are one of the best groups, like, from the lyricism. Like, woo, that is the infamous from Mobb Deep. Like, yo, this album, yeah? If you're a hip hop head, you have to have this in your vinyl collection. I am telling you, this album is a classic. Man, this is a Vinyl Me Please exclusive as well. Very lucky to get my Vinyl Me Please exclusive, because these are very hard to come by, and people sell these at ridiculous prices. But like, oh gosh, obviously the standout track or the breakout track from this album is Shook Ones Part 2. Obviously, if you watch Eminem's 8 Mile, you know, obviously the beat from that, so dope and so gritty. This album is just gritty, man. It just gives you that New York, you know, like sound. You get me? Like, favorite tracks: Survival of the Fittest, Temperature Rising, Up North Trip, Try for Life. Yo, I think you got Q-Tip as well, who produced, I think, a track or two on this album. And yeah, like I said, if you haven't listened to this, do you even like hip hop? I'm sorry, like, if you're a hip hop fan and you haven't listened to this, yo, you're tripping. Like, this is the shit. This is, yo, I'm telling you. I'll show you the vinyl as well. This comes on this like orange and blue like swirl. Like, I don't know how to even describe this. So sick, man. Next, we have one of the best rappers to ever do it. To me, this is probably one of my favorite rappers, like, ever, to be honest. This album is, to me, is my favorite album. I can't say it's his best album, because, you know, it's very subjective, but I think it's possibly his best. Because when he dropped this album, I think he went #1 while he was in jail, and that is Tupac, Me Against the World. This album is just classic Tupac. Classic Tupac. Oh man, I love this album, man. One of his concisest albums, I'd say. It's about what, 14 to 16 tracks, I think. I love like the intro where it's like a news reporter just talking about the controversy surrounding Tupac. You got Me Against the World, So Many Tears, Temptation, Young Niggas, like Lord Knows, like Old School, Dear Mama. You obviously know about that track, you know, dedicated to his mum, Afeni Shakur. Yeah, and Easy, Can You Get Away? Like, this is like this like album is, to me, Tupac's best. I love this, man. Yeah, man, if you ever heard this album, highly recommend it. Classic album from the 90s, man. And again, we have another classic album from the 90s. One of the best hip-hop groups ever to do it. To me, this album is one of the best albums from the 90s throughout hip-hop, to be honest. And that is A Tribe Called Quest. Midnight Marauders. Like, yo, if you're a hip-hop head, I'm telling you, people have this in their collection, because this album is heavily influential, especially to rappers today. I know that Logic uses he uses a lot of inspiration from this album for his own albums, to be honest, especially with Farley on Incredible True Story, especially on No Pressure as well. And yo, this album is just like so sick, man. Obviously the cover of the album, you got like their peers on the album. There's many faces on here that I don't recognize. I know you got Ice-T here, you've got Busta Rhymes right here in the corner. Favorite tracks, it's very hard to see, to be honest. I'm trying to, as you can see, it's not that easy to read, but Electric Relaxation, which obviously a breakout here. Oh my god, Keep It Rolling, Can We Get Down. Like, so many tracks on this album, man. This is one of my favorites, man. If you haven't heard it, once again, do you even like hip-hop? Because this is a classic. Last but certainly and definitely not least, we have here one of the best albums to ever do it. I think this is possibly my favorite album in hip-hop. My cousin brought me onto this album, rest in peace. And this is like, in hip-hop, if you're a hip-hop head, like any rapper like tell you, well, like this, the influence of this album today is just like, it still withstands like the test of time. Like, A lot of people will give this rapper criticism to say that they haven't dropped a classic album or anything to the heights as this album, which is, you know, debatable, but nonetheless, what we're talking about is Nas, Illmatic. This album is like, I feel like this album is perfect. Like, it's very concise, it's to the point, it gives you that gritty New York feel. Favorite tracks: Life's a Bitch, Halftime, The World Is Yours. I love that beat though. One Love, which is produced by Q-Tip, I believe. It Ain't Hard to Tell. This album is just a classic, man. Coming back out in like 94 as well. I don't think I can say anything more that hasn't been said about this album. Do your research if you don't know about this album or haven't listened to it, but to me, yeah, definitely a classic album. Of course it's classic, definitely Nas's best album. And there we have it, my hip hop vinyl collections. Well, actually, I still have quite a few that I could show, but I don't want to make this a super long video, so I might end up making a part 3. I'm not too sure about that, but the vinyls that I've showed you, especially over parts 1 and 2, are essentially my core hip hop albums that are my favorites, that are like special to me. But yeah, let me know what you think of my collection so far. To be honest, I'm very new into collecting vinyl. I've only started like this year, but my collection has grown a lot. If you're new to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. But yeah, until the next video, I'm out. Peace.